Hi. As we begin to develop programs for our course programming activities, I wanted to take a moment to specify the procedures for submitting documentation for both programming practice and programming application activities. Okay, so be sure that you watch this video throughout, understand the procedures that are outlined, and let me know if you have any questions. First things first, what needs to be documented to get full credit on a programming practice or a programming activity or programming application, excuse me. So I'm in the classroom on this page that you see here. I'm in the classroom and I'm in our very first programming practice for quarter 3, okay? And one thing you'll notice is down at the bottom, you'll have these instructions, right, that tell you what to do. But the last step of every programming application question is going to tell you the exact documentation that needs to be submitted. So in this instance, it's just question 1 where you're just highlighting, where you're just updating the program header. In this instance, you only need to attach a snipped image of the editing window. But if we move on to question 3, come down here to the bottom and you'll notice that it says the documentation requirements are that you submit a screenshot of the car tester files editing window and the output window. Okay, so the bottom step is going to always tell you what exact documentation needs to be submitted. So make sure that you're checking that last question, that last step of each question, because when you miss one of these things, you're not maximizing your points. These things are required, so points are deducted when they're not included. So it's important to understand that in programming practices, changes made to your editing window are always required. Screenshots of the editing window demonstrating the changes you made in that question are always required. As a rule of thumb, if the changes you've made to the editing window change the output, then the output will also be required, okay? But the best way to ensure that you're getting all points and you're submitting what you're supposed to is just to check out that last step in the question and know for sure what is required. So now this procedure is a little bit different for applications, okay? So I'm in an application here. I'm going to scroll down and same thing, last step at the bottom is going to tell you exactly what is required. But for applications, you do not need to submit the editing window. You only need to submit the output. Reason being is for all applications, I'm going to go into CodeHS and I'm going to review your code in there. I'm going to grade in Schoology. I'll also actually put the grade in CodeHS, but all your feedback is going to be in Schoology, okay? So for coding applications, the only thing that is required is the output window. Now, regarding the screenshots themselves, there's a couple of things that I want to highlight. The big thing I want to highlight is when you're taking screenshots, I need you to take a screenshot of the exact window that is required. So if the question you're providing documentation for requires the editing window, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to ensure the editing window is maximized so that we can see all the program code. Sometimes if this gets too long, you can just submit the changes that were made, okay? If I don't see the changes that were made in the screenshot, you don't get credit for those things. But so we're going to want to maximize the editing area so that we can see all the program. And then we're going to just want to grab just that area, okay? No other areas. No, we don't include. So, and then in the editor, it looks something like that. Okay, so we don't include this Files tab area. We don't include the output window. If the editing is required, we only take a screenshot of the editing. Okay. So then the other question is when it comes to when documentation is required for the editing window and the output window. Okay. When we're doing this, 2 separate screenshots need to be submitted here. So we have the one you already watched me take the screenshot of, just the editing window. What we can do is we can run this bad boy. Okay, we run the bad boy. One thing to note is if the program has user prompts, I expect you to put in data, I expect you to put in input so that the program continues to run, so that I can see the entire output. But so if your program, if the question you're working on requires editing window and output, you get two separate screenshots. You get the one with the editing, and then you get the one just for the output. Okay? This is really very important. The reason being is when we get these pictures that go over two windows, or say the entire screenshot or the entire window, when you submit it to me, the text is really small in your editing window. So it's very hard for me to grade. Or the text is really small in your output and it's really hard for me to view. So I really need, if it requires two separate screenshots for the editing window and the output window, they need to be two separate screenshots. The last thing I want to address about the screenshots is the design environment theme. Okay, so some of you may have played around and noticed that you can change the theme while you're programming, and I understand that that's a preference thing for you, and that's cool. But when you're taking the screenshots that are going to be submitted to me, I need them to be in this theme, the light theme. Okay, and the reason being is I have an eye disease that makes seeing dark background with light foreground very difficult. So this I can see just fine, but when we change it to the dark theme and it's a black background and red text, that's very, very difficult for me. So it must be, the screenshots must be in this light theme, because if I can't read what you're submitting, I can't grade what you're submitting. Now, I will say, if you're really, really gung-ho on having a dark theme when you're programming, that's all fine. Just make sure that when you go to take the screenshot, you just change the theme back to light, take the screenshot, and then move on. Okay, so the last thing I want to mention is some students have already gone through, say, the entire CAR program and submitted screenshots a certain way. Okay, that's okay. You do not need to go back and fix those things. If I see that you've submitted it that way, I'm going to send you a message and be like, hey, remember, we don't use the dark theme in our screenshots, or hey, remember, I need to see two screenshots, one for the editing window or one for the output. I'll message you. But my expectation is, while I don't expect you to go back and fix things you've already submitted, I do expect from here on out, moving forward, you abide by the procedures for submitting things. Okay, so now if you have any questions about this, if something's not clear, please just message me. Okay, I'm happy to talk about it.